Hi guys, it's Kathy. Something about a dog barking, and there was maybe a body, but there was just a little bit of that. Mostly a dog is barking. That's what we're that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of today. There's a dog barking following one person home, but then another person had it, and the police spoke to the other person. Yes, Randy, a dog was barking. There was a dog that was barking. I think hopefully I didn't just sum up today. Hopefully we get to the murder trial. But we'll see.
Mark this as People's 50.
Right, 50.
Yes. Can you zoom in on the street sign, John? How good's your eyesight?
Well, I can see it says Bundy Drive.
Yeah. Can you make that? Can you make the sign a little clearer? I can't look.
Before, not now.
There we go. All right. Okay. Okay. We get it. Okay. Can we back up now? Show the intersection. Thank you. Can you tell us now where those two cars are and the crime scene tapes are?
That would be Bundy and Dorothy.
All right. Now this.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm going to release the video on some of these. Let me know if anything sensitive comes up.
Okay. Now the view that we have right now, is it looking in a westerly direction if you were standing on Dorothy?
Yes, it is.
The view that we had before, People's, that was marked as People's 49, can you tell us if that was a view looking from south to north from the on Bundy?
I was looking north.
Can we go back to that now?
Go back to the
Yes. Mm-hmm. Thanks. All right. Now does that depict also the, it would be the west side of Bundy?
Yes, I don't think this is the picture when Bundy was closed down. This, it looks to me like after we made the crime scene smaller, just 3 houses. It doesn't look like, this is Bundy Drive, but it's not Bundy and Dorothy.
The corner of Bundy and Dorothy, is that the corner that you all walked around?
Yes,
Okay. And that was with Sergeant Rossi and Sergeant Kuhn?
that's correct.
When you walked down that sidewalk, sir, down Bundy, around the corner of Dorothy and onto Dorothy, did you notice anything unusual on the sidewalk?
Just bloody paw prints.
At some point, did they fade out?
Yes.
And so then what path did you take with Sergeant Rossi and Sergeant Kuhn?
We went Bundy to Dorothy, Dorothy to the mouth of the alley, and then just walked through up to 875.
I'll show you another photograph, sir. People's 51. Let's let this be marked People's 51. Sir, can you tell us what location's depicted here again?
That is Bundy and Dorothy.
That is Bundy and Dorothy?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the in the left-hand corner where you see the police car. Would that be the corner that you walked around?
That's correct.
And you took them up the alley and into the rear area, through the rear driveway area?
Right.
And did you point out the evidence that you described to us earlier, the blood drops and the change?
Yes, I did.
Were there any bloody shoe prints out on that rear driveway?
No.
And did you take Sergeant Rossi and Sergeant Kuhn through the rear gate?
Yes, I did.
That rear gate that we see?
I believe it's just Sergeant Rossi and myself.
It was just Sergeant Rossi and yourself at that point?
I believe. I'm not sure.
On People's 48, the blood trail. In F, you see the rear gate,
Yes,
and that's the gate that leads out to the driveway.
that's correct.
When you went in through that rear gate with Sergeant Rossi, were there any bloody shoe prints at that, at the end of the walkway just by that rear gate?
No.
How far did you walk with Sergeant Rossi?
I'd say about halfway. And we,
Halfway down the walkway?
yes.
So you did not take him all the way up to the front door?
No, I didn't.
As you walked him halfway up the walkway, were you using your flashlight?
Yes,
And were you pointing out what you were able to see?
yes.
Did you point out any blood drops to him?
Yes, I did.
And where did you point them out?
It's been covered. It's been asked and answered.
Overruled.
Covered.
Overruled.
Just from the rear gate up to where the what appeared to be footprints started again, and we stopped there.
So the footprints led from the bodies of the victims in the direction of towards the rear gate?
Yes, with court board, please.
He just can't let her talk. He can't. It's impossible for him. Stay warm, Anthony. Are you feeling okay? I really hope the TV is not on in the hallway.
All right, thank you, counsel. Mrs. Clark, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, with reference to those footprints, the bloody shoe prints that you saw leading away from the body of the victims towards the rear gate. When you first walked down that walkway after you exited the front door of the condominium going towards the rear gate, did you happen to notice whether the shoe prints continued all the way to the rear gate or not?
No, they didn't. They faded out.
They faded out?
Yes.
At what point?
I believe it was after the second landing, going down the stairs from the second landing, they faded it.
Was that about halfway?
Yes.
halfway down before you got to the rear gate?
Yes.
So when you took Sergeant Rossi in through the rear gate, you took him up as far as the last bloody shoe print?
That's correct.
And then what happened?
We turned around and went back out, and we returned to the front, Don and Bundy.
Now again, when you turned around and went back out, you were using your flashlight to see what was on the walkway?
That's correct.
Did you avoid the blood drops
Yes.
at that point that you were walking back with him? There were no more bloody shoe prints.
No, there weren't.
And did those shoe prints appear to get lighter and lighter as you went farther down the walkway toward the rear gate?
From the front?
Yes.
Yes.
Overruled. But he's already testified that it faded out.
All right, after you exited the rear gate with Sergeant Rossi, what happened next?
We returned to the front on Bundy.
And where did you stay?
In the street.
Not on the sidewalk?
No.
And what happened next?
Detective Phillips and Furman arrived.
Okay. It's Detective Ron Phillips and Detective Mark Furman that arrived?
That's correct.
And about what time was it when they arrived?
I really don't know. I would only be guessing. I don't.
Was it like a couple hours after you first got there?
Yes.
And where did they pull up to? Where did you first see them?
They parked on be the southeast corner of Bundy and Dorothy, and they parked on Dorothy.
Now, at this point, who was already at the location? Which people that you saw?
It's myself and my partner.
Officer Terrazas?
That's correct. Officer McGowan, Officer Wally. But they had gone up to Gorham and Dorothy and blocked traffic. Sergeant Kuhn was there, Sergeant Rossi, Officer Chavez and Cummings, Officer Glorioso and Ziegler, and Officer Aston. I don't know who his partner was.
Gonzalez?
Yes, Officer Gonzalez.
And were these people all guarding the perimeter?
Sustain, rephrase question.
What were these people doing?
Officer Cummings was maintaining control of the crime scene log, who arrived and who left. Officer Gonzalez and Aston were knocking on the neighbors' doors, see if they heard or saw anything. I guess Officer Terrazas was in the back, guarding the back.
Guarding the back?
That's correct. Officer Sanchez was guarding the front with Sergeant Kuhn. And I believe Glorioso and Ziegler were also knocking on doors.
And at that point, and Sergeant Rossi was there as well.
Sergeant Rossi with me, yes.
And after all those people were there, about 2 hours after you got to the scene, detectives Ron Phillips and Mark Furman arrived.
That's correct.
What happened when they arrived?
They met with Sergeant Rossi, Sergeant Kuhn, and myself. We went over what we had. Detective Furman, Phillips, Sergeant Kuhn, and I approached the front on the grass. I showed them the crime scene that we had in the front.
All right, now, excuse me, let me stop you there, sir. When you say you approached the crime scene on the grass, was that the same route that you described for us before? To the left of the walkway as you face it?
That's correct. It's to the left of the plants on the walkway.
I'm sorry, Nancy.
You cut the feed run? All right, now shown in, this is People's 43, 43B. Once again, is that to the left of the walkway shown there?
That's correct.
And you took that same path as you did before?
No, there's grass to the left of this, and we walked in the grass.
You're gesturing over to the left-hand side of the photograph?
That's correct.
Yes. All right. Now, did you take them all the way up to the call box that you described earlier?
No, we stayed in the grass to the left of the foliage.
And at this point, who was standing on the grass with you?
So Detective Furman, Detective Phillips, I believe Sergeant Kuhn, and myself.
Did you have your flashlight?
Yes,
So it was about 2:30 in the morning at this point?
I believe. I'm not sure what time it was.
And what did you show them?
I showed them the two bodies, the evidence that I'd seen, the envelope, the hat, the glove.
And they all observed it from that position on the grass?
That's correct.
What did you do next?
I took him around to the neighbor's yard, and I showed him where the pager was laying in the body of Mr. Goldman.
So you took them around to the side that's shown in people's, excuse me, 43A, outside this gated area,
That's correct.
and you let them see,
That's the
that's 47.
I'm going to strike that.
People's 47.
Everything he said.
Overwhelmed.
People's 47A, around the outside of that gate?
That's correct.
What'd you do after that?
Then the two detectives, I believe both sergeants and myself, walked around down Bunny to Dorothy, Dorothy to the rear alley, and went to the rear of the residence.
Okay, the same path that you took before.
That's correct.
Now, I'm going to ask that the photograph we're going to pull up now in the Elmo is People's 52.
Right, 52.
Showing you People's 52, sir. Do you recognize what's being shown in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
What's that?
That's the rear of 875 and the Jeep that was in the driveway.
Now, when you first got to the location shortly after midnight, the first time you went back to the rear area that's shown in People's 52, was the Jeep in that position?
Yes,
Outside the garage?
yes,
But the garage door was closed?
that's correct.
So you came around the corner of Dorothy and Bundy and up the alley with
right.
Detectives Phillips, Furman, and Sergeant Kuhn
And Sergeant Rossi.
and Sergeant Rossi. So it was 5 of you.
Right.
All right. And where did you go?
We went to the driveway, showed him the door that was ajar in the Jeep, the change and the blood on the driveway. I was showing Detective Furman the blood that was on the gate.
The rear gate?
That's correct. And Sergeant Rossi and Detective Phillips walked down the walkway, probably halfway.
series of photographs I'd ask to be marked as People's 53,
All right, People's 53 chart with photos.
and they will be labeled.
Thank you.
Can you, let me let you look at that for a minute. Orient yourself. Everybody can see? You see what's, first of all, in general, what location's shown on People's 53?
That's the rear gate of 875 Bundy.
Now, what will be labeled as photograph 53A, is this taken from inside or outside the gate?
It's inside the gate.
So that would be, uh, so you're taking, that's from inside the gate and you're facing out towards the alley?
That's correct.
Let you use this. Can you tell us if you see where you saw blood drops on the rear gate on the night of June the 12th?
There was blood at the bottom. There was blood on this latch. There was blood at the top. And my partner directed my attention to blood on the outside and the grating.
And do you see that blood on, that designated by some kind of marker in what will be labeled as 53E? Let's see. This one is A, second photograph. Here showing the blood drops you've indicated at the bottom rung
Right.
as B, closer up in C, and closer up in D. In E and F, can you tell us what's shown there?
This is the outside of the rear gate, and that would be where the blood was.
And a closer up view of that in F?
That's correct.
Your Honor, if I may, I'm going to ask to show this to the rest of the jury.
We'll watch the Bronco chase
come with-
while we're bored.
You want to go and point it out again, sir? 247?
This would be the interior of the rear gate. This will be blood on the bottom rung on the inside of the gate. This is a closer up picture of blood on the bottom. This is even closer. This is the outside of the rear gate. The blood would be on the grating, and this is a close-up picture of the blood on the grating.
Thank you, sir. All right, so then after you all went inside the rear gate, what happened next?
Well, Detective Furman and I went to the rear gate. We didn't go inside. And Sergeant Rossi and Detective Phillips went about halfway down the walk.
So you stayed outside the rear gate with Detective Furman,
That's correct.
and what did you do there?
I showed him the blood on the rear gate, and like I said, the blood in the driveway.
What happened after that?
Detective Phillips and Sergeant Rossi came out of the walkway through the rear gate, and Detective Furman, Phillips, and I entered the house through the garage.
All right, by that time the garage was already open?
That's correct.
Okay. And so how many of you walked in through the garage?
3 of us.
And that was you and Detective
Furman,
Phillips and
Phillips.
Detective Furman. What did you do inside the house?
As soon as we entered the house from the garage, I showed him the ice cream and the spoon was on the ground. We did a quick walk through the house, and then we went out to the front landing.
Had you noticed when you first were inside the house that the spoon that was in that ice cream cup was on the ground?
Yes,
What did it look like to you?
it looked like the ice cream had melted and the spoon had fell on the floor. It was directly underneath the ice cream.
Where did you walk them through inside the house?
We looked at the main level and went up. I showed them the kids' bedrooms and the master bedroom. We went out on the, like I said, the workout area and looked down into the living room. And we came back down and went out to the front landing.
And when you came out onto the front landing, were you able to see both of the victims there?
Yes.
And we have here a board that's been shown to council, ask that this be marked as People's 50,
54.
You able to see People's 54, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Just, if you can see the diagram, the outlines of the bodies in yellow, can you tell us if that is the relative position of the bodies to each other at the crime scene that you found?
Yes.
Well, we stopped talking about the dog.
Now, if you
I,
look
th-
there,
I think her head was actually closer to the stairs, though.
closer back to the stairs,
Right.
can you describe the Can you describe for us, sir, the area where the bodies were found in terms of space, in terms of how large that space is?
I would estimate from the north fence to the foliage on the left of the walkway, probably 10 feet and maybe 6 feet long.
In other words, was that a fairly small enclosed area?
Yes.
So when you stood at the top of the landing, did you use your flashlight at that point?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do?
I pointed out the evidence that I had seen. I showed them the bloody footprints and the walkway, the two victims.
And did you show them the envelope, the cap, the glove?
Right.
You were able to see that from standing up on the landing?
Yes.
And what did you do after that?
They looked around, just standing there. They looked, and they looked at the steps that leading towards the rear. I mean, the bloody shoe prints leading towards the rear. Then we went back into the house, and I believe Sergeant Kuhn got a hold of Detective Phillips and told him that Lieutenant Spangler had arrived. Detective Furman and I stayed in the house, and Detective Phillips went out to meet with the lieutenant.
Excuse me, Your Honor, can we approach?
Sure.
We need poncho. It feels like the 70s to me. The 90s feel like the 70s.
All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Cochran, if you like, you can just sit there. You're welcome. All right, Ms. Clark, you're just using diagrams, correct?
That's right.
There's nothing else that we're going to see on this?
That's right.
Okay.
Now, from your position at the top of the landing, were you able to point out all of the evidence you've described to us?
Yes,
And is that where the detective stayed at the top of the landing at that point?
that's correct.
And then you indicated that they went where?
They just stayed on the landing and looked at the shoe prints that continued westbound towards the rear.
And they looked at that from their vantage point at the top of the landing?
That's correct.
Where did they go after that?
I believe Lieutenant Spangler arrived. I don't remember if Sergeant Kuhn yelled to Phillips or got him on a radio to tell him he was here. But Furman and I went in the house, stayed in the kitchen, and Detective Phillips went out to meet the lieutenant.
All right. Do you know what route Detective Phillips took to exit the condominium?
He went through the house, down the stairs, and through the garage.
Okay, so he went out the back.
That's correct.
And you stayed inside the house with Detective Furman?
That's correct.
What were you doing inside the house?
Just standing in the kitchen, kind of looking around. I believe there was a jacket in there, a blue jean jacket. We were talking about if it was one of the victims.
And what happened next?
Detective Phillips and I believe he was accompanied by the lieutenant, came in the house. And I exited the rear and just stayed by my partner.
So Detective Phillips came back inside? And you mean, when you say inside, into the condominium?
Into the kitchen and met with Furman.
And when he came in and met with Detective Furman, you left?
That's correct.
And what route did you take to leave?
I went through the house, down the stairs, and out the garage.
And where did you go at that point?
I went out to the patrol car that was parked in the alley and just sat with my partner.
What were you doing?
Just maintaining security. We had been relieved by the detectives, so they assumed the responsibility.
So at that point, you were just maintaining the security of the location in the rear of the condominium?
That's correct.
And that you stood in or outside the crime scene tape?
Outside.
Did anyone enter through the crime scene tape that was not authorized to do so while you were there?
No.
In either the front or the back?
No.
Did you ever go back, after you went out and stood in the rear alley area, did you ever go back into the crime scene again?
With a photographer.
Pardon?
With a photographer.
And when was that, sir?
In the back, it was probably 10 or 15 minutes after I'd been relieved by the detectives. And in the front, it was when it was starting to get daylight.
Now, in the back, was that, how long after your exiting the condominium did the photographer come and start taking pictures of the back?
I believe the photographer beat the detectives there. And I was in the back probably 20 minutes. He came back and started taking pictures.
And to your knowledge, had he taken pictures in the front yet, if you know?
I really don't know.
After he took did you show him where to take pictures in the back?
I showed him some blood, told him about the ice cream on the banister, and that's about it.
Did you show him the change and the blood drops on the rear driveway?
Yes, so he wouldn't step in it.
And did you, how long did you stay out there in the rear area, rear alley?
I would estimate till 5:30, around 5:30.
Okay.
Then we went to the front.
What did you do in the front of the location?
We opened Bundy up to vehicular traffic. So all we had was a crime scene from the house north, Nicole's house, and the house south. And we sat in front of that crime scene.
Okay. So was anyone allowed to walk on the sidewalk in front of 875 South Bundy?
No.
Was anyone allowed to walk on the walkway at 875 South Bundy?
No.
So where did you stand in front of the location, sir?
We actually moved our vehicle and parked it right in front of 875. So the walkway wasn't visible from the street.
So you blocked the view.
That's correct.
And were you seated in your car or standing outside of it?
Seated, standing. It was depending on what time it was.
Was that done intentionally, blocking the view of the
Yes.
walkway, sir?
Yes.
Why?
So we didn't want passersby to look down there and see what it was, and trying to keep the media out.
And by the time you came around to the front, was it starting to get light?
No, it was
Still dark?
still dark.
What did you do out front?
Like I said, maintain the security of the crime scene.
At some point, a photographer arrived?
But
Sustained.
Did you have contact with the photographer in the front of the location?
yes, I did.
And was it daylight by then?
I had talked to him earlier, but he hadn't taken any pictures of the front while I was there. Then he came. It was just starting to get daylight, and he came and he took a couple pictures.
Okay. Now, was this the same photographer you'd contacted earlier at the rear of the location, the rear alley?
Yes, it was.
When he came to the front of the location and it was lighter, did you point anything out to him?
No, I didn't.
Did you see him taking pictures in that front area?
I saw Detective Furman. He was showing him the glove, and he took a picture of the glove.
Okay. He was pointing to it?
I believe he lifted up the leaves on the plant so he could see it better, and he took a picture of it.
Can you pull that one? I'm sorry. Is this the, I forgot the feed was ever on again.
Well, I assume somebody upstairs caught that.
This has not been previously marked, I think, so we should mark it as People's 54? 5? Do you recognize the person in that photograph, sir?
Yes, I do.
Who's that?
It's Detective Furman and the victim.
Okay. And what's he pointing to?
It's pointing to the glove,
The glove and the cap?
the cap.
The ones that you saw when you arrived shortly after midnight.
That's correct.
So, let me ask you something. What's he wearing there, Detective Furman?
It's like a white suit shirt, pair of slacks.
No jacket.
No.
Now, in that particular photograph, you had said that the leaves of the plant kind of hung over that one glove and the ski cap,
That's correct.
and that actually you had to lift it up to see.
Right.
Now, at this point, the leaves are not lifted up. Is that correct?
I believe that's his left hand holding the leaves back and his right hand pointing to the...
Pull back a little bit, Jonathan.
Oh, never mind. That's the shoe of the victim.
The shoe of the victim, no. So he's just
My
pointing to it
mistake.
with his right hand.
That's correct.
Now, what time was it that you were relieved from this crime scene?
7:15.
At 7:15?
That's correct.
And how, in relationship to that time that you left the crime scene, when did Detective Furman appear and point things out to the photographer?
I would say within 40 minutes. I'm not really sure. Within an hour.
So it was shortly before you left
That's
the
correct.
crime scene completely?
Right.
Do we need this photo anymore?
No, thank you, Your Honor. All right, now between the... Were you ever aware that detectives left the Bundy location?
Yes.
And you indicated, I believe, that you saw Detective Phillips and Detective Furman inside the condominium, and then you went outside and stayed in back.
That's right.
Where were you when the detectives left for another location?
In the front.
And at that point, sir, you had already come around to the front, you were standing guard there?
That's correct.
Oh, well, re-foundational, I assume.
Yes. Now, how long did you stay in the rear area?
Maybe an hour and a half.
And while you were doing that, were other people guarding the front area?
As far as I know, yes, there should have been.
When you left the rear area to go to the front, did someone relieve you and maintain the guard in the back?
Yes,
And while you were standing in front, is that when the detectives left for another location?
yes. Detective Phillips actually approached me, gave me his cellular phone, and said they were going to the Rockingham. They asked me directions to get there.
And did you assist him by giving directions?
Yes,
Were you familiar with that location?
yes. That area, not that location.
You mean the Brentwood area up north of
Right.
Sunset? May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Certainly. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you, Rick.
You want to start now?
Well, I think we might as well use every minute.
Every precious
So
minute.
every precious minute we use, Your Honor. Can still say good morning,
Morning, sir.
Mr. Risky. You had been a police officer for how long on June 12th, 1994, when you responded to this location?
4 years, almost 2 months.
4 years, 2 months at that time.
Yes, sir.
And your partner officer was Officer Terrazas, is
That's
that correct? And as between the two of you, who was the senior officer?
I was.
And he had been there less time than you had, LAPD.
Yeah, I believe he had 7 months in the street,
All
6
right.
months.
And you had worked the entire 4-year period of time in the West Los Angeles area, is that correct, sir?
No, sir.
Where had you started working when you first started?
Central,
Downtown?
downtown.
And how long prior to June 12th of 1994 had you been in West Los Angeles?
2 years, 8 months.
All right. And so that we get the chronology of the hierarchy there, you were a patrol person, is that correct?
That's correct.
And who was your immediate supervisor
That night,
on that night?
Sergeant Kuhn was the field supervisor.
Sergeant Kuhn?
That's correct.
And he's no relation to the other Sergeant Kuhn?
Not
Famous
as far as I
Sergeant
know.
Kuhn. All right. As far as you know. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And above Sergeant Kuhn, who came next?
Watch commander was Sergeant Rossi.
All right. He at some point responded to the location.
That's correct.
And above Sergeant Rossi was whom?
Just, that was it, area commander.
All right. What about Lieutenant Spangler? How did he fit in the hierarchy?
Lieutenant Spangler is a lieutenant of detectives of West LA.
All right. So he'd be above Rossi.
He's actually above Phillips and Furman.
All right. So as I understand how it works, you as the responding patrol officer worked at that scene for a period of time until such time as the detectives responded.
Right, until they take it over.
And the detectives, when they responded, that was Mark Furman and Detective Phillips, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's your recollection they got there around 2:30 in the morning, isn't that correct?
I don't know what time they got there.
All right. Ms. Clark mentioned to you that it was about 2 hours or so after you arrived.
Right.
You don't quarrel with that, though, do you?
I would only be guessing, sir. I don't know. I didn't have the crime scene log.
All right. And if you were to see a log of when the officers got there, that would refresh your recollection, would it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now let's start with you. You arrived there at about 12:13 a.m., is that correct?
That's correct.
And you arrived there within 4 minutes of the time that you received this 459 Prowler call at Miss Elsie Tistert's residence, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you arrived there, you and your partner, Officer Terrazas, were the first officers there, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, you described for Ms. Clark that when you were at the Los Angeles Police Academy that they kind of glossed over this crime scene maintenance and training, is that correct?
Right.
And much of what you learned actually on the job once you actually got in the field, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you had any training in
Donald, don't look. I just made myself breakfast, and you're not going to like it.
the sensitivity of DNA?
No.
You had any training with regard to polymerase chain reaction or so-called PCR?
No.
Had none of that at all?
No.
All right. Now, by the way, with regard to this crime scene, from the time that you arrived there at 12:13 to the time that you left at, was it 7:15?
That's correct.
So that we're clear, you then stayed there approximately 7 hours, is that right?
Right.
Did you see any officers out there with a videotape machine or a videotape camera videotaping this entire scene?
No.
You never saw anybody with a videotape at that time
Not that I recall.
while
no.
you were there?
Not that I recall.
You did, in fact, however, see a photographer at some point, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And the photographer that you saw, what was his name?
I really don't know.
Would Rokar, if I use the name Rokar, would that refresh your recollection?
It wouldn't because I don't know his name.
You don't know his name?
I never.
All right. What time did you first see this photographer, sir?
I really don't know. I went to the front after a search in the alley, and I think he was there. I'm not sure.
Let's back up for a moment. You recall seeing him at the rear
That's right.
of the alley and taking some pictures, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And was this was after the detectives had arrived at about 2 or 2:30, isn't that
Right.
correct? So whatever pictures and what he was doing was under the direction of the detectives who had now taken over the scene, is that right?
That's correct.
You did not give him any directions as to what to take. It would have been done by the detectives, is that correct?
No, I just pointed out blood so he didn't step in it or disturb any evidence.
All right. Now, did you ever at any time see this photographer take any pictures of the interior of the residence at 875 South Bundy?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever see him take pictures of these candles that you described?
No.
Did he take any pictures of this ice cream, this melting ice cream that you described in your report? I'm asking if you ever saw it.
Overruled.
Did you ever see him take any pictures of this melting ice cream that you described?
No, I didn't.
And by the way, when we break for lunch, it's a good time to break for lunch when we're talking about ice cream, Your Honor, but let me just ask him, with regard to this ice cream, when you first saw this ice cream, you described the ice cream as a bowl of melting ice cream, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
It wasn't melted at that point, was it?
In my opinion, no. It was melting. It was,
It was melting, as you said.
half and half.
All right. So it was still melting, right?
That's correct.
Okay. What kind of ice cream was that? Do you recall?
What kind of ice cream?
Yeah. Was it vanilla, strawberry, chocolate? What was it?
I don't know.
All right. And you don't have any pictures to this day to tell us, do you?
No.
In other words, would you agree with me that the best evidence of the condition of that ice cream when you first saw it on that night would be a picture of how it looked? Isn't that correct?
A picture of when I actually saw it, yes.
Yeah, when you saw it, yes. We don't have that, do we?
Not that I know of.
Okay. What kind of container of ice cream was this?
It was like a cardboard Ben& Jerry's container.
Ben & Jerry's?
Ben & Jerry's.
Container.
Right.
Is that correct? And this ice cream that you saw was inside the residence, is that correct?
Right.
And where was it in relation to that residence? Was it near the rear?
It was on a banister right before the entrance to the garage from the house.
And it was near the back, and when you came and you took the children out that way, you'd pass right by that banister, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you first saw this ice cream, what time was it when you first saw that ice cream, the melting ice cream?
I would estimate 12:35, 12:40.
So at that time, at 12:40, this melting ice cream in the Ben & Jerry's container had not fully melted, right?
Not in my opinion, no.
All right? It's a good point now, Your Honor. the ice cream, and we'll pick up there after lunch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the lunch hour. Please remember my admonition to you, don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Form any opinions about the case. Allow anybody to contact you regarding the case. Let's have it quiet in the courtroom, please. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you, and we will see you back here at 1:30. Officer Risky, you're ordered not to discuss your testimony with anybody other than the lawyers in the case. You're ordered to return here at 1:30 sharp. All right? We'll stand in recess 1:30. Thank you, counsel.
No. Of an interview conducted on February 8th, turned over to counsel on February 8th. I'm showing a copy of that to counsel now concerning the testimony, proposed testimony of Officer Benjamin Jones. He was the officer who was on patrol the night that Steve Schwab got the dog, found Nicole's dog, and called animal shelter for him. We had not previously been able to identify him. He came forward when he heard about the incident testified to by Stephen Schwab, realizing that it was him. We have the police report. It has been forwarded to counsel, and we would like to call him as a witness at the conclusion of Officer Risky's testimony.
All right, we'll allow defense counsel the opportunity to review the report.
Absolutely
and we'll
not.
take it up
No.
at that time.
Yes.
Well, it was faxed to counsel yesterday, so
Oh,
they should have their own copy.
We haven't seen it, but, John, this obviously, I'm confused. This was an officer who did this on June 12th, 1994. We're getting a report yesterday. But we'll take it up afterwards. Let's see what crosses over. All right.
Okay, can I have my copy? Okay.
All right, anything else before we
I'll get
invite
some
the
more.
jurors to rejoin us?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, now I've lost all my staff.
Maybe you should be nicer to them.
All right, let's have the jury, please. Oath. And Mr. Cochran, you may continue your cross-examination.
So that we can see the jury. Yeah, I'll stay.
Please. We'll just pile them up here. However. Is that clear enough, Mr. Douglas?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Officer Risky. Sir. When we broke at lunch, we were talking about ice cream. And since that date that you were out there on June 13th, 1994, have you ever seen any photographs of the ice cream or the spoon on the floor right below the ice cream?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever had occasion to see the cup, the Ben and Jerry's cup that the ice cream was in?
No, sir, I didn't.
And when you last saw the smelting ice cream and the spoon on the floor, where was it?
Where was the cup?
Yeah, where was the cup?
The
when you
seat on
last
the
saw it?
banister, still on the banister.
And so when you left that morning at about 7:15 in the morning, it was still in that same position as far as you know. Is that
As far as
correct?
I know, yes.
And no officer
Maybe it's still there. Can you just take a picture now?
had retrieved it at that time. Is that correct?
No, the last time I saw it, it was still on the banister.
All right. Now, while we're inside the residence, you never at any time saw the photographer take any pictures of these candles that were lit inside either. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Will you describe and give us a word picture for the court and jury of these candles? What were these candles and how were they lit?
The bathtub in the master bedroom or in the master bath is a sunken tub,
Yes.
and there's a space to the west towards the alley that's just flat. There was 3 candles and candle holders on that space, and they were lit.
And were they were lit and they were still burning when you got there?
That's correct.
Did you or anyone else preserve those candles so that we have those now?
I didn't know.
And again, would I be correct in assuming that you never saw the photographer who was there take any pictures of the candles?
That's correct.
Objection, Your Honor. It's misleading and confusing. Whether we saw it or not, this was misleading.
Overruled.
You never saw the photographer take any pictures of those candles, right?
That's correct.
Since that time, you've not seen any pictures of those candles, have you?
That's correct.
Objection seems back not evidence.
Overruled.
Did you see any candles anyplace else in the residence that were burning?
I really don't recall seeing any.
All right. Now, you've described on a couple of occasions that the place did not appear to you to be ransacked. And would I be correct in assuming that was the first time you've ever been inside that location?
That's correct.
Do you know whether or not there was any very expensive vases or anything of that nature that had been in there before
I really have no idea.
that could have been taken? You don't know that, do you?
No, I don't.
So since that's the first time that you've ever been there, you just didn't see anything that appeared to be out of order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But so that we're clear, when you finally gained entrance, you walked up the side of the bodies, so it would be to the south of where the bodies would be. The front door of this residence was open. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point, you described for us that you went inside the house. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, did you have one of these kind of roving communicators so that you could call from I forget what they call them, the rovers? You could
rover.
make a call to back to West Los Angeles Station?
Yes.
So you could have called your sergeant on your rover if you wanted to, right?
Well, I could have.
All right. And as I recall your testimony, at some point you went inside the residence. Is that correct?
Right.
Were you by yourself at that point?
My partner was on the landing with me.
All right, Officer Terrazas.
Right.
And did you know at that time whether or not this particular phone was equipped with this star 69 feature so you could punch down and get the last number called or the last number?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know?
No.
And prior to you picked up that phone at some point, did you not?
Yes.
And prior to picking up that phone, did anybody dust it for prints at all?
No.
Did you have any gloves on when you touched the phone?
No.
So you just picked it up and used the phone?
That's correct.
And did you have your rover with you when you picked up the phone?
Yes, I did.
And when you used this phone, is that when you called West Los Angeles Station?
Yes, I did.
And you spoke to Sergeant Rossi?
Sergeant Rossi.
And about what time of evening or early morning was that, sir, that you made that call?
I would say 12:20, 12:25.
So it was within a relatively short period of time of your arrival there. Is that
That's
correct? And if this phone had a particular dial component, your phone, your calling out would have disturbed that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did any other police officers at that time make any calls on that phone that you
No.
know? Now, at that time, you only went, the phone was where inside the residence?
It was between the kitchen and the dining room. It was right on the counter.
Okay, and the light, as you went inside this residence, there was light coming out of the residence down toward where these stairs were. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And do you have a photo? Have you seen a photograph today of that, of the front door being open with the light cascading down?
No.
You've not seen that today?
Not with the front door open. I haven't seen a picture of the front door.
All right. But describe then for the jury how wide this front door was open.
It's half, maybe a little more than half.
About halfway open?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, with regard to the front gate, you described for us how the Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's legs were under that gate, and we saw a picture of that.
Not under the gate.
Well, in close proximity to the gate.
It's under the fence.
Under the
The
fence.
gate is on the other side of the walkway.
Under the fence, properly put. And this gate was open, is that correct?
That's right.
And describe again how far open was it?
It was completely open when we got there.
Like wide open, is that correct?
Yeah.
And on one side of the gate, describe for us how the gate mechanism worked, if you recall. On the side, do you know, was there a buzzer on one side and a handle on the other side?
There was a call box, but I don't know if it was electronic or manual. I really don't know.
All right. While you were there that night, you described for us how in going through the shrubbery, you came up to a call box.
Right.
Did you test that call box while you were there?
No, I didn't.
While you were there up until about 7:15 in the morning, did you see any police officers dust that call box for any prints?
I really don't recall, no.
Did you find out whether or not the call box was operable? That is, by that, did anybody go inside, have the call box pressed, and check it inside to see if it worked?
Not in my presence, no.
Not in your presence?
No.
You didn't do it personally?
No, I didn't.
While you were there, did you see, and I think we saw some pictures this morning, that there was some kind of a handle on both sides of that particular gate that was open, right? Remember a door handle?
Of the rear gate, I don't remember seeing any pictures of the front gate.
All right. Now we'll think back in your mind's eye of the front gate. Do you recall it having handles on the front gate?
I don't recall if it did or not.
You don't recall?
No.
Second one.
Were they halfway? Were they full candles? If only we had a photograph.
I want to make sure if we have to.
Certainly. Certainly.
Can we cut the feed? I want to.
Yes.
We'd like to cut Peter put this up so we don't know if we can. Now, I understand this is plaintiff's 42 for identification. Now, can you look at your monitor there, and you see there appears to be a handle where I'm pointing with the laser disc. Is that on the inside?
That's a call box, sir.
Okay. No, I'm not. No.
I don't think
You can't
he's
see, you
looking
can't,
at the arrow, not the.
call box is to the left where there's an arrow. Is that
Right.
correct? Okay. I want you to look to the right of that particular photograph. You see a door knob?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where the arrow is now located, you
Yes,
see a
sir.
doorknob? All right. Did you notice that night?
I did, but I just didn't make any mention of it.
All right. And there were doorknobs on both sides of that.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? And while you were there, did you ever see any police or any police technicians dust those two doorknobs for fingerprints?
No, sir.
And you never did anything with regard to determining how you got that gate open, did you?
No, I didn't.
Now, after you made the initial phone call to Sergeant Rossi, you came back outside, is that correct?
That's correct.
At that point, you had not discovered the children, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had not discovered the ice cream?
Right.
All right.
Cartman, do you need this photograph any longer?
No, thank you, Your Honor. Let me take it down, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
And you came back outside,
That's
is that correct? And how long before you went back in the house again?
I would say less than 5 minutes.
So in a short period of time, you went back in the house again
Yes,
with
sir.
anyone else or by yourself?
With Officer Wally.
All right, you and Officer Wally went inside the house?
Yes, sir.
And when you went in this second time, what time was it, sir?
I could only guess.
Your best estimate.
12:35, 12:40.
All right, so within a half hour of the time you arrived there, at any rate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your purpose was to look to see if there were any other victims, any other people inside the residence?
Yes, sir.
And was that when you became aware or formed the opinion, as you stated, that Mr. O.J. Simpson was somehow involved in this?
Yes.
And
Well, actually, when I made an initial phone call.
now you noticed it when you made the first phone call. And you saw some correspondence with Mr. Simpson's name on it?
As a return address, yes.
And this was a letter of some kind?
Just an envelope.
All right. Now, you'd never been to that location before, had you?
Never.
Did you have occasion to check the mail? Was their name on the mailbox at all that night?
I didn't look at the mailbox. No.
This was the first thing that you saw with the name on it, is that correct?
That's correct.
A letter with a return address to Mr. O.J. Simpson?
That's correct.
In your mind, you thought that meant he was somehow involved in this?
Well, with the pictures on the wall and the family pictures
All right.
and the letter.
All right, let's talk about that. What pictures on the wall did you see?
There was a lithograph on the north wall of the residence
And this lithograph was of whom?
of O.J. Simpson, I believe.
In what position? What was he doing?
I believe it was in playing football.
He was wearing a football uniform,
Yes, sir.
wearing number 32,
I really don't recall.
but you recognized him.
Yes, sir.
All right. And what else did you see with regard to Mr.
There
O.J.
was-
Simpson's photograph?
There were some family photos as you enter the front door. There's like a wall before you get to the dining room had photos in it.
All right. And what photographs did you see there, sir?
There's just a bunch of photos. I really don't know.
And did you see children in those photographs?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Miss Nicole Brown Simpson in those photographs?
Yes.
Did you see Mr. O.J. Simpson in those photographs?
I seem to recall, but I can't be positive if he was in those photos.
All right. That's your best recollection now.
Yes,
You
sir.
think you saw it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And this is now, so did you observe this during the first time you went in there and you called Sergeant Rossi?
Yes.
Okay. Did you observe anything else at that point during this first time that you went inside?
No, just the envelope with his name on it by the phone.
All right. Now, then when you came back in 5 minutes or so later with Officer Wally, did you then go inside and upstairs in the unit?
Yes, sir.
Describe this unit for us. Can you tell us how many bedrooms that unit has?
I believe it has 3.
And are you pretty good at estimating square footage?
No.
I was going to ask you, how large was this unit?
It's probably,
Why press play? Let's scroll down and see if we can see when Furman takes the stand. Or Cato. Let's just look.
maybe 20 by 100. I don't know.
All right. Just your best estimate.
Yeah.
You're only there with this one couple times, right?
Twice. Actually, 3 times.
All right.
I don't know what
so
Furman
you
looks
then,
like.
on the second occasion, is that when you went upstairs?
Yes.
And when you went upstairs, you found the 2 juveniles asleep. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point, they were awakened. Is that correct?
That's correct.
This was a young lady and a young man.
Right.
A male and female. Is that correct?
Right.
Did you and Officer Wally bring them down at that point during the time of your second encounter into the residence?
Yes.
And of course, you took them out the back way. Is that correct?
Out the back.
And in going out the back way, the female young lady showed you how to open the garage door.
That's correct.
You're able to get them out that way and leave in the alleyway. Is that correct?
Right.
And so that we're clear, that Jeep that we've been talking about, that's a black Jeep, isn't it? Isn't that black?
I believe it's dark green.
Are you colorblind? Let me phrase this way. Do you have any problem with colors?
No.
All right. Your recollection is that
Is that Furman?
Dark green Jeep?
It's a dark green. It's just a dark color. I think it's dark green,
You think it's dark green? All right.
as far as I recall.
Okay. If you were to see a picture of it, would that help you?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Ah.
Place photo of the Jeep on the album, and we'll get the number. You're looking at that. Are you able to discern from your monitor the color of that?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, just dark. That's all you
Just
can tell.
dark.
All right. Thank you, Becky. People's 52? All right. So when you came outside, were you with Officer, as he's bringing it up closer, does that help you at all with regard to the color?
Not really, no. It's not really well lit.
All right. So you can't tell?
No.
Just dark. Okay. When you came outside with Officer Wally and the two minor children, they were taken to the station by some other police officers?
That's correct.
And did you have any further conversation with either of the minors when you took them downstairs?
No, I didn't.
They then left the scene at some point, is that correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, before I forget, with regard to the photograph that we showed showing the two doorknobs on both sides of the front gate, I think we printed that out. I think the next exhibit is Defendant's 1005. May I mark that D1005, Your Honor?
Yes.
And there's an arrow on that, and also an arrow at the call box. And I'll have that marked by Your Honor's clerk.
Thank you.
Now, inside that location, you also described for us that you saw a tub of water in the bathtub. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever touch that water to see whether it was hot or cold?
No,
or
I
whatever?
didn't.
And were there any pictures taken of that water?
I really don't know.
You don't know? You never saw any, did you?
No.
Did you ever...
Objection, Mike. There's facts not evidence that this witness has seen the photographs.
Overruled. Overruled.
Could you tell whether or not someone had taken a bath already from that water?
No.
Did you see any children's toys in and around the bathtub?
No.
Do you recall looking for that?
No, I don't.
All right, you just looked and saw some water in there. That was pretty much it. Is that
I
right?
was more worried about having a person in there than toys. I didn't see any, no.
I understand. So your answer is you didn't really look and see, right?
That's correct.
I understand. Now, with regard to the master bedroom that you described for us, there's a master bedroom and a master bathroom. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the bathtub we've been talking about is in the master bedroom, right? Or off
The
from it?
master bath.
Okay. Now, with regard to this bed, did the bed look as though somebody had been in that bed that night?
The covers were piled in the middle. I couldn't tell.
All right. It was an unmade bed, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you say the covers were piled in the middle, it wasn't as though the bed was made up, in other words, right?
Right.
Did you make any other phone calls from inside the residence at that time?
No, sir.
What was the
And then,
date on the milk
Did you
in
have
the
a third
refrigerator?
time in which you went back inside the residence?
Yes.
Is that when you went up on the landing? The third time when you went back?
If
when was
only we
that?
had a photo.
The third time I went in with Detective Furman and Phillips.
Is that when you went up on the landing?
I went up on the landing the second time I was in there too.
Okay, so 2 times you went on the landing. is
That's
that right?
correct.
That's when you made the observations. Now, with regard to the time that everyone arrived there, I'm going to show you what purports to be an LAPD crime scene log, which purports to have the time that various individuals were logged into the scene and I want to see whether or not this will refresh your recollection regarding certain individuals. I'll mark this as the court pleases D1006, Your Honor, and I'll show it to counsel.
Noted 1006.
I have never made my bed when I first wake up, ever. I'm tired, I'm groggy, I'm cranky when I first wake up. And when I'm ready to go to bed, I just want to go to bed. I just want to lay down and go to bed. I don't want to have to. When I went to Puerto Rico to meet my in-laws, they had like a million pillows on the beds that were very pretty and everything, but to go to sleep you had to take all these decorative things off the pillows to sleep on them and get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and it was impossible. Yeah. Yeah, and if you're in the bed, why would you make it? I believe you do because you were in the service. But I just do not have time. I don't have 2 seconds. I just don't have 2 seconds. Nope. Plus, I am the only person that ever sees my bed. Ever. So,
Place this before you. It's a two-page document, Your Honor, D1006. Now, Officer Risky, let's first of all take you and your partner were the first to arrive. That would be Risky and Terrasso, right?
I guess the right half of my bed is always made. It's always the same. That counts, right?
Process. And has you arriving at about 12:20 and leaving about 7:15. Is that generally accurate?
That's accurate what it says. That's not accurate what happened.
Okay, but that's what it says on this log, right?
That's correct.
Okay, because you actually arrived at 12:13, right?
That's correct.
All right. So do you know who was keeping this log that night?
I believe it was Officer Cummings.
Okay, and did you yourself sign into this log that night?
No, I signed out. I didn't sign in.
Okay, you never signed in? All right. I want you to look down. Let's see if we can find Phillips and Furman were partners that night. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what times indicate that Phillips and Furman arrived at the location?
2:10.
That would be 2:10 in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Does that comport with your memory that they were there somewhere after 2 o'clock in the morning hours?
Yes, sir, but I don't know how accurate it is again, because I didn't fill it out.
But the log does say 2:10, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was Officer Cummings' job? Is that
I
correct?
believe so, yes.
And he arrived at the scene within about 10 minutes of the time you arrived, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. So once they arrived at 2:10, Furman and Phillips were then the officers in charge, is that correct?
After we showed them what we had, showed them the crime scene, yes.
All right, because they were the homicide detectives, is that right?
Right.
All right. And then, it's true, is it not, that did Detectives Van Adder and Lang come before you left at 7:15 or 7:20 in the morning?
That's correct.
And when Van Adder and Lang came, they were the ones in charge because they came from robbery homicide downtown, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Do you know about what time they arrived?
No, I don't.
You don't know?
No.
Again, if I might approach again, Your Honor. I'll ask you to take a look at the log and see if this makes 10 refresh your recollection. Well, Van Adder.
I'm going to object. There's no foundation here. There's no demonstration of this witness.
No foundation, that's the objection, correct? You can use anything to refresh recollection.
I'm not, that's not the basis of my objection.
All right, let me see it sidebar.
Well, he's not on for any more today because we got to stop for the day. But that means we get to hear him more tomorrow. Woo! Everything he says, when he asks a question and then he repeats the question back and asks it again, over and over again, and then when Marcia does the same thing, which is annoying, he objects. I want violence to happen. I want violence. And, you can't really do violence to him right now, but it drives me insane when lawyers do that, when they repeat the questions back. Gosh. All right, guys. I'm stopping now because I do want to try to do a daytime live today. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm going to start. I'm going to see. Um, so I'm going to let you go. And if not, I will see you all tomorrow. Or in Judge Fleischer's court. Or in Bill's stream. If he streams tonight and I'm off work. Bye, guys. Have a great day. See. Thank you so much. See ya.